Okay, so we have the EV base running boards for a Rivian R1S, and this is a 2025 Gen 2. I was looking online and couldn't find any videos or instructions on how to do this, so it took me several YouTube videos and different documents to read through to figure out how to do it. I've got the driver's side installed here, and now we're going to work on the passenger side. So we'll start with what we have in what came in the box. Here's the running board. And here are the brackets that mount to the car. You can see they look a little bit different than everything that we saw in the videos. So they changed their style for the Gen 2. They're labeled 1, 2, and 3. So front towards the front of the car, middle of the car, and towards the back. Here are the tools that they provided. They also gave us this little torx key. So they really don't give enough of what we need. So I'll show you what I had to buy back over there. And then here is the mounting hardware. Again, this is just half of it because the other half is already installed. There's this extra bag of hardware that they provided as well, just in case, I guess, you need more. So the things that I got, I needed this torx bit to get the screws off the car. So this is torx TP55. This worked perfect. A lot of people used impact drivers, or I didn't have one of those, so I got a breaker bar. It's a 30-inch breaker bar. It was really easy to remove with that. Could probably get by with something smaller, but that's what I got, 30 inches. And then you'll need a smaller torx bits as well. So I have T20 and T30 so that we can remove the plastic panels from the car. I think this is the 30 here, but I also have T20 somewhere. So those are the ones I used to get the panels off. And then just a socket wrench set. That helped as well with some of the bolts. And then a torque wrench to tighten all the carriage bolts and the torx bolt when we're getting everything back on. So I'll show you how to do that. I did use an angle grinder to cut the plastic panels to get them put back on. It was my first time using an angle grinder. It was very easy. But I will say the plastic panels were probably the hardest part of the whole project and took the longest, but I got it figured out for that side, and I'll be doing it again on the passenger side. Okay, so first step, you want to get in the car and raise it up to the highest mode. So that will be all-terrain mode right over here. So you'll hit all-terrain and go off-road. And now I see that the car is being raised up to the highest mode. Okay, so we're here on the passenger side, front of the car here, back over there. I misspoke earlier. It's not a T30 torx bit, it's a T27. So we'll be using two different torx bits to get the plastic panels off. There's T27 and T20. There are 3 different panels. There's a small one in the back, a large one in the middle, and then one more, medium-sized one in the front. There's a T27. There are 3 T27s total, one in the back. I believe it's 2 on the front here. And then there's 2 small T20s over there, and I'll get under there and show you what that looks like. So I'm laying underneath the middle of the car right now, looking backwards. This is looking towards the rear. There is the rear panel with the first torx bit that I'll be removing. And then I'm gonna pan ahead to the front. And now we're at the front. Here's number 2, number 3. Those are the T27s. And then there's 2 little ones way up here near the front. These are the T20. So I'm going to remove all 3 of those, or all 5 of those, and then I'll get back on. Okay, so I've got those 5 bolts out. You'll set these aside, and we'll use them later when I'm putting the plastic panels back on. So now we'll go ahead and remove the panels. Again, there are 3 of them. We're going to start with the rear, then we'll do the front, and then we'll do the middle. This was pretty hard. I felt like I was pulling hard enough that I might break something, but everything came off in one piece. So I start with, there are little plastic tabs that you'll see towards the middle of the car. I start with that, and then I work on the metal clips, which are on the outside towards the doors. So first the plastic tabs, and then the metal clips. Plastic tabs come out pretty easy, but the metal clips were really hard. Just essentially pull straight down with a good amount of force, and they will pop out. Okay, so there's some plastic tabs in the back here. I'm going to start with those. Ooh. There we go. So I've got the plastic tabs out. There's two on the back side towards the middle of the car. And then there's two, there's two in the middle and two on the back. And then there are what looks like two metal clips. I think it's two clips here. So try to hold. You really just pull straight down. Pretty hard to get these guys out. And there's one.
Ooh, that's dusty.
There we go. And this one, I can see the metal clip did not come out. The metal clip stayed in, so I'll have to pop that out. We'll get under there and do that in a second.
Okay.
You can see what I was talking about. Here's the two plastic tabs that are towards the back, two towards the middle, and then two metal clips that you pull straight down. So this one I'm just going to take off from here and put it right back on. Okay, so I got that little metal clip out. I just pried it off with this. I was able to open the rear door. It gave me a little bit more space. So I was able to get on top of it and just kind of lever it out. And now I'll just pop it right back onto this, and then we'll be good to go for the next step. I might need to figure out how to do that. It's a little bent, but it'll still work. Oh, you can see why I don't like working with these plastic panels. Slides back onto there, and that'll help it latch back on. There we go. Okay, so now I'll work on the other panels. Again, this is the rear one. We're going to move to the front. Same idea here. There's plastic tabs. I start with the ones that are towards the middle of the car. There are 3 of them, and there are a couple towards the front. Oh, make sure you're wearing goggles. You're going to get a lot of dust. So actually no plastic tabs on the front, just 3 towards the middle. And this time there are at least 3 metal clips. First one actually already popped out. So we'll do the next 2 in the back. Same thing, just pull straight down and it should come on out. There we go. This one came out much easier. All the metal clips are still there. So 3 plastic tabs in the back, 3 metal clips towards the doors. Now we'll go on to the middle one. Oh, this one has a lot. So we'll start with the plastic tabs. This comes out much easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 tabs. 8 plastic tabs. I'll work on the metal clips, just one at a time. So a lot of them pop off, and all the metal tabs are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of these, and then those in the back.
Do it again.
Okay, so we'll set this aside.
Count it again, just quickly.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 metal tabs here, and then a bunch in the back. So we'll set these aside. We'll cut those before we put them back on. Now we'll move on. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and remove those Torx 55 bolts so we can install the bracket. Again, this is different than every video that I saw online where they had 2 different bolts. This one only has space for 1. So we won't be doing anything with the 17 millimeter bolts that are more towards the, towards the inside of the car there. We're just working with the Torx 55s. So I'll get underneath and I'll show you. We'll be counting from the back going forward. I believe there's 7 total. So we're going to be placing our brackets. We're starting with number 3, which is in the back. That's going to go on the second one. So we'll be on bolt number 2, 3, and then 5. So I'll get underneath and I'll show you which ones I'm talking about. Okay, so here I am underneath the passenger side, looking towards the rear. That's the back tire there. So these are the 17mm bolts. We're not going to be touching those. We're only going to be using these Torx bolts. So this is the first one here. We're skipping that. We're going to attach our rear bracket here on the second one. And then we'll come around. We'll keep going. There's 2, 3. We're skipping number 4. We're going to go on and 5. We're going to use that. And then we'll skip the front 2 as well. So one more time. We're going to use bolts number 2, 3, skip number 4, and use number 5. Got my breaker bar with the TP55 bit on it, and I'm going to start in the back. We'll be putting this bracket that's labeled number 3 on there. And remember, we're doing the second bolt from the back. So I'm going to pop under there.
I can see the first bolt and that you're working on the second bolt.
Way under there. Okay, there you go. It's loose. So nice and easy. It wasn't too hard to do. Okay, so I am just working on this guy here. When I bought my TP55 bit, I bought a drive size that does not match with my socket wrench. So ideally, I'd be using a socket wrench right now to get this out. I don't have one that fits this bit, so here I am just spinning around my breaker bar. It feels loose enough that I think I could just get it out now. And there we go.
There we go.
So there's that TP55. So now I am just gonna pop it right back on. I'll get underneath and show you how this fits on there. Okay, so here I am underneath. This is where that second bolt came off from, and that's where I'll be attaching this bracket. This one, I was unsure if it was going to fit. It hardly fits in there, but once it's all lined up, it should go kind of just like that, with the bracket just inside of this little piece here. So then the bolt will fit right inside there, and it will line up. I was a little unsure at first. I thought maybe it was designed improperly, but it works. It worked on the other side, and it'll work here too. Put that TP55 bolt back on. I got my bit. I put it on a torque wrench now. I have it set to 80 feet-pounds right here. There we go. So I looked online a few different spots. Some places said 100, 90, 80 is what I saw mostly. So that's what I'll be going to here. And then I just put the bracket out all the way as much as I can. Okay, almost there. It's pretty snug now, so I can let go of that bracket, and then I'll just torque it down. There we go. Okay, we're at 80. Now that's set. Now I'll repeat the same thing with the second bracket and the first bracket. I'm gonna switch back to my breaker bar. And remember, we're going to the third TP55 bolt. I have all 3 in. This is the back one. I showed you how that lines up earlier. And then the middle one, the back part goes right up to that little lip. I've torqued all of these down now. So there we go, that's the front one. There you go, they're all pretty sturdy. And now, I'll come back out. Next step is going to be putting those plastic panels back on. So, before putting the actual running board on top of these, it's much easier to put the plastic panels on to make the cut and slide them over the bracket with the running board off. So that's what we'll be doing next. Okay, so the way that this lines up is the middle. I have the middle panel here. You'll see that 2 of the brackets line up with the middle panel. The rear panel won't need to be cut at all, and the front panel will need to be cut one time. Now, some people choose to just leave these panels off. I don't know if it really matters. I decided to put them back on. Again, this is the most tedious part of the whole process, but I did it on the other side, so I'll do it again here. The way I line these up is, I just started with the rear panel. I essentially count the metal clips so I can see where the metal clip inserts are. So the rear panel takes those 2 metal clips here, and then I'm going to lay that down. And then the middle panel goes on the next one. It's actually pretty easy to line it up with the plastic clips on the back as well. So I just kind of line it up there where it's supposed to be. And you can see where I'm going to be making the cuts. So the way I did it was I just measured the distance from the clips and cut out a hole that's about the size of this, a little bit bigger because it doesn't need to be so exact, and it's much easier to get it on when the hole's a little bit bigger. So you can see the metal clips here again. My first hole for the rear bracket is going to be between the first and the second metal clip. And then for the middle bracket, it's going to be between number 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's going to be right between those. So between 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. That's what I'll be cutting. So now the way I'll be measuring is just measuring the distance from this clip insert and seeing how far the bracket is. I think it's about 1.5 inches. Then I just mark it off over here on the plastic panel, use the angle grinder, and cut right through it to make a square. The square is about 2 inches. It's a rectangle, 2 inches by 5 inches. Once it's all done, so I'm going to go ahead and mark those off. Okay, so I can see that the bracket starts about 1.25 inches from that metal clip, so I'll probably start making my hole about 1 inch away. And here it's a little under 1 inch, and the whole length of the bracket, it's about 4 3/4. I'll make mine a little over 5 inches. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, it just needs to be big enough. I think some people choose to just cut all the way from the back. Instead, I just cut a square right about here. So I'm going to measure out about 1 inch. Sharpie. This is going to be about 1 inch out from here. We'll line it up once more. And I can actually see it's pretty much the length of this black plastic piece. So that's pretty much what I'm going to be cutting. So I'll make a line straight across here. And I'm going to cut right about here. And again, this is just approximate. It doesn't have to be exact. If you want to, you could be much more precise, but I'm not going to be. And then I go about 5 inches back from there. And that's what I'm going to be cutting.
And the whole purpose of this is just to have the metal pieces fit through the plastic.
Yeah, so once I make this hole, I'm going to feed the bracket through that hole. And then the plastic panel will snap back on. So there you go, somewhat rectangle. I'll do the same thing for this one over here.
Perfect.
Okay, so I've drawn my squares. This is the one for the rear bracket. It's about 2.5 inches wide, just over 5 inches long. And then for the middle bracket, you can see my lines weren't so straight. Again, it's pretty precise, but I'm going to be using this inside line over here. And it's about the same dimensions. And with the other side, I had to take it on and off a couple times and cut the holes bigger. This time I'm just making them bigger to begin with. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut. You can see I don't really have a real workstation, so I'm using my bench from my home gym. And I'm gonna be cutting right next to that. So I'll start with this guy over here. Yeah, you can see it melts the plastic quite a bit, so it's hot. So I'm just using this cutout to kind of clean out the edges there and take off whatever there is. Okay, there you go, you got one square. And do the same thing with the next one. And then we're gonna go try to pop it on and see how that goes. You see I've got my rectangles cut out here. This one I went a little bit too far, but it doesn't quite matter. So hopefully if I did my measurements right, it'll just fit right in. So I kind of feed it through the bracket. You can see why it has to go on before the running board itself is on. And then we do need to start with the middle panel. So middle panel is the first one. Make sure you do this side first. And yeah, it looks like it's lining up pretty well. So now I'm gonna go ahead and put this panel back on. I'll do that with the plastic clips in the back first. So kind of push it back as far as you can. All those plastic clips are lined up. And then I'll start working on these metal clips in the front. Okay. So I have all the panels back on now. So now the next step is going to be laying out the running board and using the bolts to line it up, to attach it. So the way I line this up, first you just kind of lay it down right on top of it. It's pretty adjustable, as in, you can slide it forward, slide it back. The front isn't really used so much because, when the door opens, you're not really stepping up in this area. So I tried to move it back as much as I could. If you slide it too far back, the back of the door will hit this. So I pretty much moved it as far back as I could so that the door is not hitting. So right now it's still hitting a little bit. It's too far back, so I'm going to slide it forward a little bit. And I'll probably put it right about there. And, even before lining it up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw the bolts in there. That way it's somewhat sitting on there, and then I'll show you how I line it up. All right. The way that these bolts are going to go in, they go into the running board. There's little grooves there. I hold it sideways, push it up under there, turn it 90 degrees. So it'll be this way. Then I slide it over towards where the bracket is. There's holes in the bracket. Lift up the running board a little bit, kind of angle them in. Takes a little bit of work to do, but after you figure out the first one, it's pretty easy to get. So I've laid out the running board now. I have all of the bolts in there. They're not attached yet. The rest of the hardware is still here. But I'm just lining it up. Again, I moved it as far back as I could so that I could still open the door, the rear door, without this scraping. And you can also decide how far in or out you want it. I have it all the way out just so you have more step to use, but that's kind of up to you. So I have that lined up, and then I'll go ahead and put the rest of the hardware on and mount it. It's going to be a flat washer, spring washer, and then this nut right over here. And I'll just use a socket wrench to get that on. So I've lined this up. Most important is just making sure that the back door doesn't hit. Again, I have mine all the way out. I've already somewhat tightened the bolts underneath. It's a 13 millimeter socket wrench, and I'm going to torque it down again. This time going up to 35 feet-pounds. Okay, so I'm all done torquing those 6 bolts down. So I'll just put these guys back in. These are the first ones we took off the plastic panels. Back to our T27 and our T20 bits. I think the tool that they provided is a T20, so it works for these 2 small ones, but they don't provide anything that works with the larger ones. So I'll pop on my T27 bit, throw those back on, and that's it. We'll be done. We're all done. So now you got a nice step to get inside. It's nice and sturdy. You can jump up and down on it, and now the kids can climb into the car. Okay, I hope this helps.